What if the biggest celebrity scandal of the year wasn't about a breakup or a fight, but a terrifying brush with death that was completely covered up? Doctors are now breaking their silence on the most catastrophic near-miss in aviation history, confirming Shu Kai was clinically seconds away from death. Was the co-pilot a hero or a desperate criminal trying to save his own skin, dragging Shu Kai into the vortex? And later in this video, we'll expose the chilling theory that this wasn't an accident at all, but a deliberate act of sabotage, and the key evidence is hidden in a single, cryptic text message sent moments before impact. You clicked on this video because you heard the whispers, the rumors, and the terrifying, fragmented news reports. Tonight, we aren't just confirming the rumors, we are opening the private medical files and reconstructing the final, terrifying moments of a crash that should have left no survivors. You are about to witness the mind-blowing, minute-by-minute survival story of global superstar Shu Kai, directly through the eyes of the trauma surgeons who fought the ultimate battle to keep him alive. Stick with us, because by the end of this journey, you will know exactly why the official report is wrong, what Shu Kai saw in the final seconds before impact, and the medical miracle that saved a life the world thought was lost forever. This isn't just a story of survival, it's a deep dive into impossible odds, human resilience, and a cover-up that stretches to the very top. It was supposed to be a standard, luxurious red-eye flight from a promotional event in Europe back to Asia. Shu Kai, exhausted but riding the high of a successful tour, boarded his private jet, a sleek, customized Gulfstream G650, confident in the professionalism of the crew and the reliability of the machine. The initial ascent was smooth, the city lights shrinking to sparkling diamonds below. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet, almost serene. Shu Kai was asleep in his cabin, headphones on, blissfully unaware that 30,000 feet below, a tiny, almost imperceptible flaw in the auxiliary power unit, APU, was slowly beginning to cook the wiring loom. This is where the official narrative begins to crumble. The initial report chalked the incident up to clear air turbulence and a minor electrical malfunction. But Dr. Elias Vance, the chief trauma surgeon who later became Shu Kai's lifesaver, and who has agreed to speak exclusively to us, paints a far more sinister picture. The injury patterns, Dr. Vance reveals, were not consistent with turbulence. They were consistent with a high-velocity, uncontrolled impact. The damage we saw on arrival, it suggested a catastrophic failure, far beyond a simple shake. The first sign of true danger wasn't a jolt, but a smell, acrid, sharp, and unmistakably electrical. The cabin crew, highly trained veterans, initially kept their composure, reassuring the few passengers. But in the cockpit, the atmosphere was instantly toxic. Captain Zhao, a man with a pristine 25-year record, fought a cascade of flickering screens. The instruments were going haywire. The problem was escalating faster than they could troubleshoot. Then came the first truly mind-blowing scene, a violent, shuddering lurch that threw hot coffee against the cockpit ceiling. It wasn't turbulence. A hidden fire, fueled by compromised wiring, had erupted, severing key control linkages to the ailerons, the wing's control surfaces. The jet, which moments ago was a masterpiece of precision engineering, instantly transformed into a 70,000-pound brick of metal, tumbling uncontrollably toward the dense, black ocean below. Imagine the terror. Shu Kai was violently ripped from sleep, slammed against the bulkhead. The noise was deafening, the roar of the wind against a crippled fuselage, the shriek of stressed metal. Looking out the window, he saw a sight that should have been his last. The world was spinning. The horizon was doing vertical loops. The plane was in a flat, uncontrolled spin, losing thousands of feet per minute. This is the point, according to Dr. Vance's analysis of the black box data, which we had to fight to access, where the co-pilot, a young man named Lei Wei, made the impossible, heroic, and potentially suicidal decision. With Captain Zhao desperately trying to fight the dead controls and screaming into the radio, co-pilot Lei Wei realized they had mere seconds before the structural integrity of the wing failed completely. Lei Wei ignored the captain's shouts and, in a desperate, final attempt to break the spin, executed a maneuver that defies physics and protocol, a full, high-speed nosedive. He wasn't aiming to land, he was aiming to trade altitude for airspeed, hoping the incredible G-forces would stabilize the plane just long enough. The force of this maneuver was so extreme, it crushed Shu Kai deeper into his seatbelt, causing the internal injuries that would later nearly claim his life. For a terrifying 15 seconds, the jet plummeted, the pressure cooker of the cabin reaching its breaking point. Then, for a heart-stopping moment, the plane leveled out. They had arrested the spin. They were flying again, but they were flying too fast and too low, straight toward an isolated, craggy coastline. The next stage wasn't a smooth landing, it was a controlled disaster. The pilots, their controls barely functional, spotted a narrow, sandy beach backed by sheer rock cliffs. It was their only hope. Captain Zhao, having regained his composure, yelled the emergency braces command. Shu Kai, adrenaline flooding his system, felt the terrifying scrape of the landing gear refusing to fully deploy. The impact was not one massive jolt, but a series of catastrophic tearing and grinding sounds. The plane hit the sand, careened off course, and slammed nose-first into a cluster of high, dense sea shrubs near the cliff base. The fuselage ripped open like a tin can. In the chaos, the unthinkable happened. The sheer force of the secondary impact, combined with a structural failure directly behind Shu Kai's seat, caused his luxury cabin section to partially detach. He was violently thrown from the wreckage, still strapped into his mangled seat, tumbling dozens of feet before coming to rest, hidden, crumpled, and barely breathing, in the thick, wet sand and debris. This tiny separation is what saved his life. It isolated him from the ensuing cabin fire and the crushing weight of the main fuselage. For 45 minutes, the search and rescue teams, scrambled from a nearby naval base, meticulously scoured the wreckage, fearing the worst. The official count was clear: 2 pilots, 3 crew, and 1 celebrity passenger, all accounted for, or so they thought, in the smoldering debris. They had found the co-pilot and the captain, both alive but critically injured. Shu Kai was missing. He was presumed vaporized, or submerged by the rising tide. It was a local fisherman, drawn by the smell of jet fuel, who stumbled upon the horrifying truth. He found Shu Kai, semi-conscious, whispering a single word: water. The star was alive, but the next few hours would be a race against a clock ticking down to zero. This is where the real truth, the part the media completely missed, begins. Shu Kai wasn't just injured. He arrived at the military trauma center in a state of traumatic shock, his life hanging by a thread. Dr. Vance, the chief surgeon, describes the initial scene: "We had a movie star on the table, but the celebrity was gone. We had a dying man. He had a shattered pelvis, multiple rib fractures, and the most critical injury, a grade 4 splenic laceration. His spleen was essentially pulverized. He was bleeding out internally, fast. His blood pressure was non-existent. We had about a 10-minute window before irreversible organ failure." Dr. Vance reveals the chilling truth: during the first 90 minutes of surgery, Shu Kai's heart actually stopped 3 times. For 7 terrifying minutes, he was clinically dead, Dr. Vance recounts. They performed open-chest cardiac massage directly on his heart, a desperate, rarely successful maneuver. The atmosphere in the operating room wasn't quiet and sterile, it was a frantic, blood-soaked ballet of survival. The turning point came when they discovered the second major problem: an undetected, small tear in his small intestine that was leaking toxic contents into his abdominal cavity. This required an immediate, complex repair, slowing the surgery and draining his remaining reserves. They needed blood, and they needed it now. The hospital was running low on his specific, rare blood type. The only available supply was a single, dusty unit from the back of the refrigerator, reserved for extreme emergency. Dr. Vance took the gamble. It worked. That single bag of blood was the difference between life and oblivion. Shu Kai survived the night, then the week, then the month. But the questions lingered. Why did the controls fail so catastrophically? Why did the official report insist on turbulence? This brings us back to the provocative questions we raised at the start, and the shocking theory that the official investigation deliberately buried. Remember the co-pilot, Lei Wei, the man who performed the miraculous, near-suicidal dive? Our investigation reveals a crucial piece of information. Lei Wei was heavily in debt, entangled with an organized crime syndicate who had placed massive, 7-figure insurance policies on the plane's flight path. The shocking theory revealed: the electrical fault wasn't random. It was a small, expertly placed incendiary device, a minor disruption designed not to crash the plane, but to disable key controls, forcing a controlled ditching into the deep ocean where the wreckage, and the evidence, would be unrecoverable. Lei Wei, under duress, was the unwilling accomplice. However, co-pilot Lei Wei's dive, his desperate act of heroism to save himself and the others, foiled the plan. He saved their lives, but also forced the landing onto the beach, allowing the wreckage to be recovered and the forensic evidence to be analyzed by the military. And the single, cryptic text message we teased earlier? It was found on Lei Wei's personal, burner phone, a simple message sent 3 minutes before the emergency. Task complete. Prepare payment. The task, we believe, was arming the device. His subsequent actions were a last-minute betrayal of the men who had threatened his family. The accident report was a lie. Shu Kai was close to death not because of bad weather, but because of a deliberate act of sabotage, and the man who initiated the disaster was the one who ultimately saved the day. Shu Kai's return to the world stage is not just a comeback, it's a defiant statement that even when you are clinically dead, even when forces conspire to erase you, the human will to survive, and the desperate heroism of a desperate man, can create a miracle. What an absolutely insane story, right? This isn't just about a celebrity. It's about the hidden layers of truth and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. If this deep dive into the Shu Kai plane crash miracle and the shocking conspiracy behind it blew your mind, then you know what to do. Smash that like button. Every like helps us bring more untold stories to light. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next mind-blowing investigation. And most importantly, comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. What was the most shocking revelation in this story for you? Do you think Lei Wei should be considered a hero or a villain, given his complex role? Have you ever heard another celebrity story with such a deep, hidden conspiracy? What do you think should happen to the crime syndicate responsible? Drop your thoughts, theories, and reactions in the comments right now. Let's get this conversation going. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.